Yo, what's up? It's your boy Currency 365. Hope you guys are doing well. Legends never die, they stay in our hearts. If you want to support us, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also you can come down here and hit the join button under the video or in our channel section. And you can also join our Patreon, patreon.com/currency365. And we also have Cash App and also PayPal for supports if you want to sow some seeds. Peace out. God bless. Enjoy the video and keep the movement going. Legends. Bye.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. It's your host, Mr. Diamondhandz. Lunk Live starts now. Guys, before we get started, you know what to do. Like the space, repost it, tag everybody that you know, because look, we've got a heck of a show for you today. We have the CEO of Terramoni, Mr. Chris Amani is in the studio with us today. Mr. Amani, are you there, sir?
I am. Good morning. Happy to be here.
Good morning. Good morning. A little bit early for you on the West Coast, right? 6 a.m.?
Oh, wake up early and grind, man. We have work to do.
I like it. I like it. Guys, look, everybody's been wanting to have this interview for a very, very long time. We worked about 2 or so months to make it happen. And today is the day that the entire world will get to hear the future of both Luna and possibly Terra Luna Classic. So we're going to deep dive right into things. I know we're on a time crunch, and I know Mr. Ramani has a lot of things he's got to get done. So we're not going to waste any time. If you have any questions, guys, you can DM them to me, and I'll try to get some as quickly as I can. But again, on this time crunch, so we're not going to waste any time, okay? So again, DM your questions to me, and then after this space, we'll have another space, and we'll do kind of a recap to talk about all the stuff that we talked about. So, Mr. Ramani, right out of the gate, not going to waste any time. I saw a post yesterday from you, right? Because there's a lot of buzz going on right now in the crypto community. You made a post on X yesterday, and you put at Terra Money 2024 $LUNC with a handshake emoji. Can you explain to me and the listeners here the meaning behind the tweet, and if it signifies any bright future plans between these two blockchains?
Yeah, so I threw that out there because I knew I'd be coming on. One of the things we've been working on at TFL is to bring LUNC liquidity in a meaningful amount to the Terra blockchain. So if you've been following what we've been doing on the Terra side, we've been trying to ensure we have like DeFi, what we call DeFi sufficient liquidity for a number of different tier one assets that we want to make available to all of the protocols that build on Terra. And generally what that means is, if a money market wants to use an asset, or if Nebula someday would want to use an asset, you need to have like a minimum amount of liquidity available in order for it to be safe to leverage within a DeFi protocol. And so you've seen Terra bring Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche. Obviously, we have Luna, AVAX, tier one, BNB, kind of like the biggest names in crypto to the chain. And you've seen plans for us to leverage the Alliance module to incentivize bringing USD, USDC, and USDT to the chain, Atom to the chain. Ultimately, we want to have DeFi sufficient liquidity for all of the most important assets in crypto. And as part of that, that little tease was us just, kind of announcing that we're going to bring LUNC liquidity to Terra as well, and put it into one of the AMMs and make sure that there's ample liquidity for people to trade and for DeFi to be built on top of it.
I like that. And also in a recent tweet, it was actually on January 5th, you actually said Terra Money will have the deepest stablecoin liquidity in Cosmos and will be the only ecosystem that has DeFi sufficient liquidity for both Cosmos and non-Cosmos blue chip assets and free infra with foundation. There will be no better ecosystem in Cosmos for DeFi builders. Can you kind of touch on that? I know you kind of explained that before,
Yeah.
But about the free infrastructure for, like, for example, Terra Luna Classic. Explain that to us.
Yeah, so basically we've been working on a product called Foundation, and Foundation was born out of our experiences with launching Station V2, and also just my experiences with taking over from Doe and becoming more versed in how to build Web3 applications. I've built a lot of Web2 applications as a CEO and as a head of product, but in my time prior to Doe leaving the company, I was not involved with product development at all at Terra because that was his domain, and I did like back office stuff. And so as we looked at what went wrong with Station V2, we looked at what the major bottlenecks were for us trying to build applications. There are a number of different things, but one of them that became very clear was just infrastructure, having reliable infrastructure and cost-effective infrastructure that we could use. And this is getting super into the weeds, so I don't know if this is going to be interesting or not. But essentially, for every chain in Cosmos, if you want to interact with those chains or you want to be able to read what's happening on those chains, you have to have like these databases that are set up that read the blockchain and put the information from the blockchain into a form that a web page can access quickly and reliably. And it just doesn't exist, right? There's not a lot of infrastructure that exists to do that. And so we had to build all of that infrastructure in order for Station V3 to be what we wanted it to be. But while we were doing it, we were like, well, we should open this up. If this is a problem for us as builders, it's going to be a problem for everyone else who's trying to build as well. We should open that up so that applications that build on top of the Terra blockchain have access to the same kind of reliable, stable, scalable infrastructure that Terra has access to. And so the idea, it's kind of like a strategic thing. Like instead of just like paying people to build on your chain, which I don't think has very good ROI, we want to give people the tools to build on the chain. And the tools that teams need to start building the DeFi applications that we want to see are, first and foremost, liquidity for the assets that people want to interact with. And number two, reliable infrastructure so that every application that's built on Terra can have the same kind of slick UI reliability that we have for our own applications, enterprise and station. And so that's the idea. So on the liquidity side, there won't be another chain in Cosmos where a builder can use Bitcoin, Ethereum, like all of the blue chips outside of the Cosmos ecosystem, as well as the blue chips inside of the Cosmos ecosystem. And so we're bringing all of that together. Lunk is part of that. And then the infrastructure is part of that as well.
That's fantastic news. And we've seen obviously in the last week about the announcement of the version 3 of Station Wallet. Everybody in the Luna camp has been very, very happy with it. They've been shouting from the rooftops, you guys have to see this. Kind of tell our audience today, if you will, about the latest upgrades of Station Wallet V3 and your partnership with, say, Pulsar Finance and all this stuff that you guys have been working on. What are some of the new features of the version 3 wallet?
Yeah, so what version 3 does, I don't know if it necessarily, actually it does do some things that are new that no wallets have done before, but what it tries to do is look at everything that just sucks about the wallets that exist today and fix it. And so like there are just basic things that have been massive pet peeves of mine in working in and using crypto over the years. One of them is, we talked this big game about how we're going to replace the entire financial system with this new decentralized financial system. And that's great. I love that mission, but I can't get a fucking transaction history of what transactions I posted, right? Like you're not gonna replace JP Morgan if the applications we use can't simply and easily tell you like what you did with the last transaction, right? You need not only a transaction history, you need a statement. And we're all required to use these blockchain explorers, which are great for developers, but terrible for, a consumer user who doesn't want to understand how to decode a JSON file. And so one of the things we wanted to solve was just a clean transaction history. If you're using Kepler or Leap, you literally do not have a transaction history for all of the chains that you can interact with. So now take that and, well, actually, let me pause there. So first and foremost, like I just need a consolidated transaction history. Beyond that, you need to be able to do more complex transactions, right? It's a pain in the ass to like bridge your token from one place to another and then swap it there and then bridge it to wherever else you need it. What Station does, leveraging Skip's API, is automate all of that. So if you want to do a more complex transaction, we'll call it like an IBC swap, although that name is terrible. A cross-chain swap. Let's call it a cross-chain swap where, let's say I've got Lonk on Terra Classic and I want USDC on Atom Hub. I should just be able to choose the asset I want to spend and the asset I want to receive, where I want to receive it, right? And I should click a button, approve a transaction, and that should just happen. Now, what happens behind the scenes? A lot of different stuff is happening, right, to get you the best execution. That might be 2 transactions, it might be 5 transactions. What Terra does that no one else is doing right now, or what Station does that no one else is doing right now, is it goes through all of those transactions and ensures that you can successfully complete them first and foremost. So if you're doing 3 transactions, you don't want that to get stuck midway through the 3 transactions because you landed on a chain with no fee token on it, and you can't complete the middle of the transaction and you're just stranded halfway through. You'd rather not do the transaction at all than do it like halfway. Which is not something that existed in Cosmos until we launched Station V3, is like someone who actually checks that for you. Not only that, what Station does is if you're halfway through that transaction and you need gas tokens that you don't have, Station can also help you get those. So it'll identify that you're going to need some help along the way, and it'll also kind of like embed a transaction to get you the gas fee you need to make it successful. And then at the end, most importantly, like Cosmos is finally at the place where we can do these cross-chain multiple hop transactions, which are incredible, right? We're abstracting away the chain. But the applications aren't currently ready to support those. And what I mean by that is like, that's great. We spent all of this time on building the ability to abstract away these complex technical issues, but there's nowhere in Cosmos where you could go to one place and see what actually happened on a cross-chain transaction. So let's say you do that multi-hop transaction. Well, you just did like 3 transactions on 3 different chains. If you want to see what happened in that transaction, you would have to go to one block explorer for one chain and look at that, and then go to the next block explorer and look at where it went there, and then go to the third block explorer and look at, like, it doesn't matter like how cool the technical shit we build is if the UX UI for seeing your multi-hop transaction is going to 3 different block explorers to try to piece it all together. So what Terra does, again, coming back to the transaction history, is, well, we have transaction history across all of those chains. We can actually group that multi-hop transaction into one logical visual element for you in Station. And if you want to collapse out or expand out and see the multiple different things that happened on that transaction, great. But you probably just want to see like the logical thing, which is I started here with this and I ended here with something else. And so Station does that. The last thing I would highlight is kind of like a critical thing. Actually, 2 more things I'm going to highlight since you asked me. I'm going to take like the entire meeting. There are no other, I mean, this sounds insane, but there are no other wallets in crypto, definitely not in Cosmos, but I don't think there are any other wallets in crypto that can identify that you're holding the same token across multiple chains and just group those for you. So like, I'm not going to pick on anyone in Cosmos specifically, but if you go to some of the other Cosmos wallets and let's say you have USDC on 2 chains, it's going to show up as 2 different lines, right? It's going to show up as USDC on chain 1 and USDC on chain 2. That's insane. You have USDC, it's on multiple places. The wallet should be able to tell that it's the same asset, it's just in 2 different places. So what you'll see in Station is that would just be grouped together, right? You have one USDC balance, it's in 2 different places. You can obviously collapse out and see, or expand out. Sorry, I keep using the wrong word. Expand out and see that it's in 2 different places, right? There are indicators that it's not all in one place, but it consolidates those balances for you. So you just know, like, this is how much Luna I have. This is how much USDC I have. And then the third thing is, like, I think we've all done the thing where you try to get someone to come. I've been in Cosmos now using Cosmos for 4 years, maybe longer. And I still will like send USDC to a chain and then it lands there and I don't have the fee token and I'm stranded. So we have fee abstraction as well. So if you send like USDC to Juno and you don't have any Juno token to now do anything with it, Station will identify that. It'll say, well, you've got Luna on the Terra chain. Um, we're going to initiate a gas top up transaction for you so that you can complete this. And it'll just bundle it all into one kind of logical transaction. You sign it, you go, you do everything you need to do. So those are kind of the four things I would say, like an accurate cross chain transaction history that groups logical actions. Um, a view of the world where you can see your token balances across all chains in one place. Um, fee, fee abstraction, and complex, safe interchain transactions that don't fail halfway through. That was a lot.
I mean, everything that you just mentioned right there is very, very bullish to me, because the way that I look at it is this, right? Ease of use. Every single day, new people are coming into crypto. They have no clue how this stuff works. They don't know about block explorers. They don't know about gas fees, how to check their transactions. They're newbers, right? They don't get this stuff. So when you're telling me that you're creating a platform that's kind of a one-stop shop for all this stuff, I love it, because we all, at the beginning of our journeys, right, when we came into this space, we didn't know anything. We didn't know how to buy crypto. We didn't know where to get good educational content. Most of the stuff were hard to figure out. It took me like 2 hours. I'm not afraid to say it. It took me 2 hours to buy my first crypto because I didn't understand how this stuff worked, right? So I love hearing how you guys are trying to improve, Station V3 by making it more accessible, easier to read. And just the things that you mentioned, like with this new upgrade, will say, holders of Lunk, will we be able to see like the price of our holdings? Because I think right now, currently with the station version that we have, that's not available. Will things like this be available for V3 updating? And will we see like more Medium articles explaining this in detail for the future?
Yeah, I think, the one thing I forgot to mention is everything that we described doesn't even like include the integration of Pulsar. If you use Pulsar, it's the best. I don't even know what I should know the right, like one word term for what you would call it, I guess, like portfolio tool in crypto, I think. And so once we integrate that, it becomes more like Station ends up being like your wallet, your dashboard, your homepage, and like the mobile app ends up being, if you've ever used like one of these, are you guys getting a weird voice from me, or can you hear me okay?
No, we can hear you fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
You end up also like the mobile application can end up being kind of like your portfolio tracker, like a Blockfolio, or if you've used like Delta or something like that, where you have to go in and like manage all of your positions manually. Um, it'll be that as well. So yeah, it'll have all the token prices and everything like that. There are currently, so here's the thing, and this is why you saw me put February instead of today, with regards to the Lunk liquidity coming over. Um, there are currently like technical issues, and the massive technical issue we have with Terra Classic is that these addresses are exactly the same, right? And so what we need to do is we need to tackle that in a pretty serious way to make that experience better for you guys. In the meantime, what we want to do is at least give you a place to trade, and make sure that your token is a first-class Cosmos citizen, along with all of the rest of the tokens in the space, and that you can benefit from all the same applications that everyone else can.
Yeah, and that sounds great, because a lot of people, they're seeing the tweets about, Alliance DAO, Warp Protocol, Enterprise DAO, and I've looked at this myself, and they all sound amazing. But currently, right now with Luna Classic, we're not on the most up to date version of SDK, right? So is that something that TFL could collaborate with our L1 developers to try and make that possible? Because I'm telling you what, I've gotten tons and tons of messages of people saying, Diamond, I'm seeing all this stuff that Mr. Amani's talking about, and it all sounds great, and we would love to to try that out, but we need help. So is that something that TFL could collab with us to, like you said, it is kind of difficult at the current moment, but is that something we can work towards together to make it happen?
Well, we have a chat with, I think, the team that's developing your layer one, and we're trying to help out as much as we can. Ultimately, like running a layer one is hard, right? And we don't have the resources to run two. Um, but we can help, and we help a lot of different teams, right? And so we can definitely like lend our expertise. And I've said this before, all of the applications we're building, like Enterprise and Station, obviously will support Terra Classic, and we think Terra Classic. We want to make sure Terra Classic gets the treatment it deserves, and that you guys have all access to all of the same things that any other layer one at Cosmos would have when it comes to um, what TFL is building. But that said, it shouldn't be too controversial at this point, or maybe it is. But Terra is our home chain, um, and so we've just got to make sure that thing, like, there's just a lot of work. I mean, that goes into to keeping these things updated. And every time I think like in a team that's working on our core chain, I'm going to be able to pull them off and put them on an application, they just get pulled right back in. There was a bug the other day that we had to patch. There are like issues with fees, right? The inscriptions thing happened and our chain halted. And we have to figure out a dynamic fee module now. And there's just a lot of stuff. I think, um, but yeah, I think we should definitely collaborate. And I think, your layer one team is more than welcome to, everything we do is open source, right? And so we can always share, and your layer one team can take that. Let me ask you a question. What's the state of like, protocol development on the chain?
So that's kind of the issue, right? Like there's no big secret that people are ready and they're hungry for development, right? So, but the issue that we're having is just needing the assistance, needing the expertise to help us get to that point. So, obviously, in the last 20 months, you've got the community, you've got the validators, you've got the burns, you've got all these wonderful things, but you're still not up to, like I said, the latest up to date SDK. And so, we're trying to get to that point to where we can do the things that I mentioned earlier about, Alliance DAO and Enterprise. And because I've talked to, JG from Backbone, right? I love hearing, and I try to hop in, white whale DeFi spaces as much as I possibly can. And I'm not joking. I literally sit there and salivate when I see all these wonderful ideas, all these use cases and utilities, and they're excited and they're getting, pumped up about it. And I'm literally sitting there going, I wish we had that opportunity. I wish we had all of these builders that could come back to Terra Luna Classic and bring their time, their talent, and their treasure and help us grow this thing. And a lot of people feel the same way, but it's just that small issue because we can only go as so far as we can by ourselves. So that's why I asked earlier about collaborations of some degree between TFL and our L1 team to try and work together to try and get us to that mark so we can basically open up the doors for fun for all. And I think that's kind of the issue that we're running into right now. And obviously we have our burn tax, the 0.5 burn tax issue going on right now, which we love because it helps us be deflationary. But we are running into a few issues with that, with people's codes, because it's a little bit difficult. But if we're working on solutions to make that happen as we speak with tax to gas, and more is going to come out on that. But I think what we are desperately needing at the current moment is just like I said, having that assistance from TFL to get us to that point where we're up and current so that we can start doing that cross-chain utility that you're talking about. Because I'll be honest with you, we want that. I think everybody can sit here and shake their head in agreement and go, yup, that's what Terra Luna Classic wants. We've got the people, we have the passion, we have the community, but we need the builders. We need those guys that are rocking and rolling on 2.0 that, I've seen them. They're loving life, they're building, they're creating. We want to bring that back to the Terra Luna Classic blockchain and cross-pollinate, if you will. I mean, just give people the ability that wish to have it to utilize, their talent over here. I think that's the biggest thing that we're looking for at the current moment.
Yeah, like one of the things that I think that would be most, because look, here's my thesis. In the end, uh, in the end, a lot of the blockchain is going to be abstracted away, and the application will be king. And it's hard. It's hard to get. It's hard to get developers to come build on your chain. We're not doing a great job of it either. It's like a big push for us in 2024. We have a few. But if you look at like where the vast majority of like our liquidity is concentrated, it's right back in the in Astroport, right? It's not like the biggest, and they didn't launch their hub on Terra, and Mars isn't going to launch its hub on Terra. And so you and I, both of our chains have some of the same, I would say, just historical baggage that it serves as an impediment to getting the ecosystem going as much as I would like. I mean, you guys look at Terra and you see a lot of activity. I look at Solana. I'm like, how do I get back to that level? But one of the things, just to elaborate on that, is everything that we're building is crushing by default. So there's no reason your community can't use it. I need to talk to, I cannot remember, maybe Steven knows the answer to this, but for example, the version of Enterprise that we just launched enabled, maybe I should get into that because that's probably like the more interesting thing. The version of Enterprise I just launched, it enables DAOs to be created from anywhere, for people to stake their tokens from anywhere. By the end of February, it'll allow people to stake their NFTs and do NFT DAOs from anywhere. You can claim your rewards back to anywhere. Like, it's completely wide open. It doesn't care what chain you're on. And like, that's ready to go. And you guys can start creating DAOs, NFT DAOs soon, and do anything on Terra Classic that we can do on Terra. But again, it just comes down to, getting your chain upgraded with like the latest features. I think IBC hooks, packet forwarding middleware. In the meantime, what we want to do is create enough liquidity on the Terra chain that you can use things there, and that LUNC can be leveraged and used in DeFi the same way that it would anywhere else. And then once you guys get your chain ready to go, all of the cross chain stuff we built will be available to you. But I just want to be realistic, right? Like, we can't do that for you. So that team that's doing it, you got to try to like raise money, maybe expand the team. We can help with expertise and advice, but they're just going to have to do that work. You've got to figure out, the Terra Classic community has to figure out how to get we can even help with like infrastructure, right? Like, cause that's expensive. But we can't do the code for you. And so the Terra Classic community has to figure out how to like, build a team that can implement and upgrade sustainably and regularly. And then once that happens, I think you guys are going to have access to everything that we've built.
Yeah, and we're currently doing that right now. We're going to be putting out some props, the pay per job type route. And I totally understand where you're coming from. I know you guys have a lot on your plate, and we do have our own L1 task force that does, the upgrading of the code, and that's totally fine. I think, what you just said there about offering infrastructure and offering expertise, that right there is gold in of itself, because we have the people that can do it, but obviously, two heads are better than one in a lot of things in life. And when you have more help, the more you can get done, right? So I'm completely fine with that. I think what we're needing, though, is, like you said, getting us up, to par with the code to where we can do these other applications and utilize these liquidities that you guys are building. Because look, liquidity is huge. It's one of the biggest things in crypto that you got to have, right? You got to have liquidity. You got to build things that people use and people want, applications that are fun and exciting and good interfaces and all these fun things. Because when these new investors come, right, these new people that have never been in crypto before, and they see this big, vibrant ecosystem, they see all these things being built, they're going to get bullish. They're going to get excited. And when they see partnerships being performed and all these different chains that are being involved and all these wonderful tech conversations, they get excited, right? Because I've been there. I've been in these spaces as a listener, and it's very awesome to where I'm now a speaker. But when I first came into crypto, that's the kind of stuff that made me excited, hearing about, this is coming out, guys. We're building this. We're doing this partnership. We're going to this blockchain. And prior to UST depegging, you guys were doing that. You were going out to other blockchains and doing cross liquidity features, in places like Harmony and all these other blockchains. And I think, because you mentioned before, you're looking at Solana and you're saying, how do we get back to that point? If you'd like my personal opinion, I truly believe the way that you get back to that point is simple. What you do is you build, no matter what it is, liquidity pools, applications, wonderful L2s, partnerships, relationships, and you keep going. You don't stop. Bull market, bear market, multiple cycles, because the longer that you stick around, Mr. Amali, the more of a reputation that you get, and the more that you prove to people that you will never quit, the more they will invest in you. And that is why this community like Lunk has survived, right? That's why you guys are still kicking right now. You know, people have figured out, okay, we're coming in on the 2-year anniversary of the crash, and yet these two cryptos are still alive. That means something, right? That means something. And that was actually going to be my next question to you. So obviously, we know the whole legal aspect going on with Do Kwon and things like that, but you're the newly appointed CEO of TFL and Luna, okay? They're wanting to look to you to guide them, right, in the coming years and in the future. You know, you described this moment as basically like a redemption, right? You mentioned that earlier. What would you say to your holders, right, to ensure, you know, their support for you going in to the rest of 2024 and into 2025?